Okay, so yeah, it'd be helpful to have a strap. We're going to start off with the bolster. Okay, so this this seems to be a popular pose for working the upper back. So you want to set the bolster crossways or a rolled blanket, as I've said. And then I'm bringing some support. It's important to protect the neck in yoga. It's like one of the vulnerable areas. So bringing the head up from the floor will help. If you've got more flexibility, then you can remove some of the bricks. And then we're going to lie down. I'm also going to support my outer thighs. It's a bit more comfortable on the hip area. So remember that the bolster comes into the tips of the shoulder blades, and we're getting an extension through the upper back, through the thoracic area. I'm supporting the outer shoulders, the outer hips. And depending on your body, you may or may not take the arms above the head. So if, I'm thinking of Joanna, it might be more comfortable to have that. In fact, even the arms down or out to the sides. Okay. If you want, you can also take the arms above the head. Also, another position with the arms would be this crossing the chest that we did at the end of yesterday's session. That's not a bad position to adopt, quite restful for the arms. So we'll take this posture as an arriving pose, taking your time to set up. And obviously this is a passive pose, it's a yin style pose, it's emphasizing letting go, it's emphasizing relaxing. It's not a strengthening practice. So you can take a few moments. So we're doing this for like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, but you could easily, as long as it's well propped up, you could easily do like 20-minute or even half an hour practices with this pose. If you're wanting to really rest. So it's said to be beneficial for, we're aiming at the upper back area. And it's also said to be very beneficial for the pelvis. It's a good alternative if you're teaching a class where someone doesn't want to go upside down. For example, at the end of a class, often we'll teach shoulder stand, the typical format. So if somebody, for example, is in menstruation or for whatever reason they don't want to go upside down, this is a useful pose to offer. So it's a good pose to have in your repertoire. And here we're emphasizing the work in the upper back, but you could emphasize the work in the lower body by strapping the legs. So if you're crossing your arms, just recross the arms the opposite way. I'd like you to tune in with the whole body experience. We're going to build up these layers or aspects of mindfulness. First of all, becoming aware of the whole body. And then coming into aware of any specific sensations. So yeah, it's like 3 days of yoga, probably more intensive yoga than you're usually practicing. So it might be that you're beginning to notice some aches or sensitivities in the body. So we can bring awareness to that. getting a sense of your mood. And being aware of your experience of one of change, okay, just being patient. The fact that things change often is an invitation to be patient. Yeah, so things don't stay the same, or they don't go the way we want them to. It's almost like they've got a life of their own. There's an opportunity to develop what's called Shanti or Kashanti, K-S-A-N-T-I. Kashanti is patience. Said to be one of the sort of great practices of the Buddhist tradition, Kashanti. A perfection of Kashanti, Kashanti Paramita. And then coming into an awareness of the breath, I'm going to take my arms above the head slightly more actively, parallel to the floor. But you can do what you like with the arms. So we'll bring awareness into the breath, and four or five breaths, breathing maybe a little bit more up into the upper body. If that's too intense for you, carry on breathing into the lower body. I'm just going to intensify the work in the upper back. So my arms are slightly active and lengthening out parallel to the floor. If that doesn't work for you, then just can leave that. Lengthening through the body. Still quiet in the legs. Relaxing the inner legs. And I'm lifting the breath a bit higher into the body. Okay, and then from there, so I wouldn't recommend sitting up to come out of that. So you bring the soles of the feet onto the floor again. We're going to slide off the support. So the back of the body comes to the floor. You can push the gear out the way. And come into semi-supine. And just noticing the effect of that pose. Yes, it seems like quite an innocuous pose, but it's a powerful adjustment on the upper back. And the upper back and the chest and shoulders are an area that we really do hold a lot of tension, and it can be quite a deep tension accumulated over the years. In some ways, it's like there's a protective mechanism there of literally the upper body is protecting the vital organs of the heart and lungs. There can be like an emotional counterpart to that. Okay, so from there, roll to one side. Okay, and then we're going to sit into whatever's an easy position for you. So it could be sitting on the knees. And we're sitting on the knees. Just it's important to be aware that you can use bricks underneath your buttocks or a bolster as well to have less pressure into the knee joint. So it's useful with beginners. I'll just show that. Well, no, that's fairly obvious, right? So you're lifting the sitting bones a bit higher. So there's less closure behind the knees, okay? And then we're going to extend the arms out to the side and tip the fingertips onto the shoulders, so resting lightly. So this should be really beneficial for Joanna. So we start off with small circles in one direction. I've done this in the weekly sessions. This is something, again, I learned from Sadhata. It's like said to be a rheumatic exercise help the shoulders loosen up. So we start off with a small, almost like tiny sized circle, and then you slightly build that up, spiral that out, slowly growing the circle. And as you do that, the elbows come forward. Going back is much harder. We try and keep the spine more or less neutral. So yeah, you will move the spine and the head and so on, but trying to keep the spine not rigid, but upright in the vertical axis. Maybe you can touch the elbows in front of you. Highly unlikely you can touch the elbows behind you. Feels like the kind of movement you do when you're taking off your shirt or something. Like having to reach back and pull. Okay, so it'll have a benefit in your just everyday life. So we'll start to reduce the circle again, back to a penny-sized circle, and being aware of which direction you're going in. Okay, being aware of which direction you're going in, coming into stillness. Relax the arms for a moment. Close the eyes, being aware of the shoulders. Once again, winging the elbows out, bringing the fingertips to the shoulder. We're going to go the opposite way. Okay. So, did we remember? It doesn't matter if we repeat, but starting with small circles, going in one direction, building up the circle. You can do it quite slowly, it doesn't need to be fast. You can feel our way into the shoulder joint, gradually building the circle to bring the elbows towards each other in front. And then once again, closing in the circle, winding down, winding back towards the penny-sized circle, and then resting. Resting the arms, you can close the eyes for a moment, taking your awareness into the sensation. We can let go across the tops of the shoulders. Okay, from there we're going to come off the support, off the knees. And we're going to come into child's pose. But we're going to turn the head. So I want you to bring, we did a version of this yesterday. So we're going to come into child's pose. Hands behind the sacrum, behind the pelvis. And then we turn the head to the left. Just very slightly. I have to get this right. This usually takes me a while just to work out which, because we're going to alternate with the arms. Okay, so how does this go? Yeah. So we're turning the head to the left. Okay. And then on an in-breath, we're going to take the left arm up, reach up, look up. And then on the exhale, we're going to bring the left arm down and turn the head to the right. And come back to child's pose. But we're now looking to the right. Now coming up on the inhale, right arm comes up, looking up. And then as you come down, you turn the head to the left. So you're taking the gaze away from the arm, resting the side of the head to the floor. So there's a version of Vajrasana or a left hand coming up, gaze coming up. You can even look up. Exhale, left arm comes down, turn to the right. So you're turning away from the arm, the upstretched arm. Now taking the right arm up. Inhale. Exhale, turning to the left. Aware of the movement of the head. Okay, turning to the left arm comes up. Exhale, turning to the right. Looking for a smooth movement with the breath, inhaling up. Again, this comes from the Yoga practice that I mentioned yesterday. So it's like a kind of one of the lineages of yoga, who's founded by Desikachar, and there's an American teacher called Gary Crafts, so Yoga for Wellness, really interesting text that he's produced. Inhaling, coming up. One more time on each side. Exhale. As we turn the head as we come down, and then last time. This time I want you to exhale, release down, release the arms, and rest the forehead onto the floor. So you're back into a centered position. Checking again down through the body. Checking in on the whole body experience, the breath. So we're going to build up a little bit of strength work here. This is something I wanted to do on the first day, but we didn't get round to it. So I'm going to bring it in now. So we come up into all fours. And this is called tiger stretch, okay? So we start off with the knees under the hips and the hands underneath the shoulders. It starts off as a cat-cow. So exhale, drawing into your center line, pushing through the hands. Inhale, lengthening, as it were, lengthening the chest forwards. And see if you can focus in on the upper back area and chest area. Exhale, pushing gently through the hands to open the back of the body, that space between the shoulder blades. Inhale, reaching forwards with the chest. Exhale. And then release down, okay? Like a preparatory movement. You can lead the arms forwards, resting the head down. On an inhale, coming back into a fours. So now we're going to bring the inner legs together, so the knees together, so it's like a narrower base. The hands stay where they are. I think we did this on the last workshop, actually. So it's more like it's got an element of core strengthening as well as arm strengthening. So as we inhale, we reach out, one arm, opposite leg, look forwards. Exhale, come back to all fours. Inhale the opposite leg. Okay, so we're just alternating left, right. And you're doing opposite arm to leg. Looking down on the exhale. If you want, looking forwards on the inhale. Careful with the neck. So as though you're walking like a tiger, but actually we're not going anywhere. We're staying in the same spot. Reaching out from your center to the periphery. Surprisingly powerful movement, even though it's kind of very elementary. So it's said to be really beneficial to do work from all fours in terms of strengthening and freeing up the spine. And it's, if you think in as we develop as kids, there's a phase where we do a lot of crawling around to build up that core strength. Maybe one time more on each side. You're reaching out from the center to the periphery, and then when you're ready, release down again into child's pose. If it's not good on your knees, do put some more padding underneath the knees. Often I will say, yeah, put a blanket down underneath the knees if I've got blankets. I've got a double mat here, so that it's important to protect the, as it were, the bony joints. Okay, inhaling. Once again, come to all fours. This is a bit more challenging. So again, inner legs together, hands underneath the shoulders. So what we do here is we try to reach back for the opposite leg. So it's like inhale, reach back. Obviously, you're not going to reach the foot. Exhale, release down. So you can keep looking down. Inhale, reach back. Keeping the elbow into the center line. And switch sides. It's like tiger stretch version 2. Inhale, reaching back. Lifting the thigh, lifting the elbow into the center line, into the medial line. So just to look after your neck, keep looking down, alternating between the two sides, trying to reach for the opposite leg. Inhaling, reaching up. Exhale down. This definitely gets easier. I used to really not like this movement. Okay, it's another one that started to tore me. It definitely gets easier. Releasing down when you're ready. Coming into rest. Child's pose. If resting in child's pose is not restful, then you can sit back on your feet. That's fine. Breathing now. Okay, so let's just try one more variation of this. So this is more of a static hold. Come back to all fours. Knees together. So let's just see how we get on with this. So I want you to lift your left leg, bending out the knee, and see if you can reach back for your foot, left foot, or ankle, or shin. And then you just gently push the shin towards the hand. Really, obviously it's a bit of a thigh stretch, this one. So aiming to do the opposite leg. Keep looking down, keep a sense of broad across the shoulders. Breathing down and release. Knees together, switch sides. So I'm reaching for the opposite leg. Once you're in the pose, you can gently press through the down hand to lift the chest away from the floor. Lifting the back knee. Do check in on your neck. Okay, so any time that we're working the arms can generate tension around the neck. It's kind of weight bearing position. So checking that you're releasing the neck, keeping the neck long. When you're ready, releasing down. And this time we'll take the child's pose where we thread the arms through the legs and release down there. So there's this gentle pressure of the inner legs on the outer arms. Feels quite satisfying. Releasing your neck, positioning the forehead so you can really relax through the neck area. So those all fours positions, although you could say they're really elementary, they're surprisingly powerful if they're done judiciously, if done carefully. Reconnecting with your breath. Really softening around the shoulders and the neck, letting go. We're going to coming up from there. So we're going to do a little sequence now, which it can be quite challenging, but I kind of feel like it's a really good thing to include in the upper back work. So it's based on the forearm balance, which is like Pincha Mayurasana, the peacock pose. And we're going to play with the hand position. So I'll just show this. So the first way I'm going to suggest we do this is to bring, so you've got imagine your forearms on the floor. You're going to bring the hands towards each other, cross the thumbs, and let the index finger bases touch. I'll just show that. So you let your hands come in, index fingers touch, thumbs cross, okay? So what we'll do is we'll place down the hands on the floor and cross the thumbs, index fingers touch. And then I personally quite like to bring the elbows fairly narrow. So a little bit narrower down my shoulders even. And then we tuck the toes under. We're going to push through the forearms and the hands to lift the pelvis. So it's strong work for the arms. We'll try a few variations. So once we're here, if you want to intensify, you walk your feet towards you. We're not going to kick up or anything like that. Okay, we're going to do the weight bearing. So it's like doing dog pose, but on the forearms. Okay, stay connected with the breath. Personally, I like to look towards the floor. So I'm doing something of an extension with the neck area, but you could let the head hang if that works better for you. Okay, and then release down. Come back into child's pose or just sitting back on the feet for a moment. So this works works around the shoulders, the upper back, the neck area, but it also does work into the core strength again, okay? For the second position, we're going to take a brick or some sort of something rigid, okay? Because what we're going to do is take the thumb, let me just come a bit closer, thumb and the index finger round the brick. So you could do it like that. That helps to keep the hands a bit wider, or you could also do it like this, where your thumbs come into the side of the brick. You could go crossways or lengthways. So once again, we'll bring the brick down, or it could be a cork brick as well. It could be one of these more compact bricks. And then we bring I'm going to go for a narrower base. So I'm bringing the brick lengthways. I'm bringing the thumbs underneath, index fingers parallel to the brick. Elbows, I'm lining up slightly narrower than the shoulders. It may be easier for you to go wider than the shoulders. So do play with the distance between the elbows. And then coming to all fours. Once again, and we're going to gently lift up. So you're pushing up. I'm keeping the knees bent here so I can really access lifting the sitting bones. You can let the head hang, but it's not on the floor. Okay, the head is free. And I'm pushing back from the forearms back towards the sitting bones, lifting my way up and back. So it's strength work. It works deep into the shoulders. Breathing there. And then release down once again. You can either rest the forehead to the floor, Or if it's more comfortable sitting back onto your feet for a moment. And breathing there. So what the brick helps to do is it sort of obliges the external rotation of the shoulders. So the shoulders usually don't want to do that. So you're kind of working against that. So it tightens up the outer shoulders. So it's probably pretty challenging for Johanna, I'm imagining, because it's really working the outer shoulders. If you can do it. And so the third version, we're going to try with no bricks, but try to keep the forearms parallel to each other and try the pose again. So you bring your forearms down, the third go. One of the things to be aware of here is to see if you can really bring weight into your hands and your wrists. Okay. Again, I'm going to bring my elbows slightly narrower than the shoulders, just slightly, fractionally. But you really need to bring awareness into the hands, because what the hands generally want to swing in towards each other. So if you can keep the hands fixed, lifting back, grounding the forearms, the wrists, and then seeing how you get on with this. If you want to intensify, you walk your feet towards you. I suggest you keep the knees bent, try and lift the sitting bones. And you can take the gaze straight towards the floor or let the head hang, look back, attentive to your neck, breathing there. So we're pushing through the forearms. Do come down when you've had enough. Pretty full on weight bearing. Okay, and release when you're ready. And again, either resting into child's pose or into sitting, up to you. And come into eyes closed, resting the arms. Taking awareness into that whole upper body area, neck, shoulders, upper back. You can soften through the upper back area. So this work is really important in terms of preparation for more advanced inverted poses, if you were going to go on to do those. But this is really important foundation work, because we're trying to strengthen up, as it were, the whole shoulder girdle area, like the whole upper back, shoulders, arms. So if you're going to do headstand or stuff like that, shoulder stand even, this will be really good preparation. Okay, so from here, we're going to, again, you could sit on, depends how your knees are doing. If you want to sit a bit higher, come onto a bolster, come back to Virasana. And we're going to move into a little more of a kind of stretching sequence. Okay, so I think we've done this as well in the weekly class. So we take the arms out. Just again, another Saddha pose. So it's like two wings, and then we do little circles. The circles stay small. You can do up to 20 or 30. I think I've seen this done in Pilates actually. So small circles in one direction. It starts off really easy, and then it just gets really intense. Okay, so take the gaze towards the horizon. Up to 20 or 30 circles, and you'll find it just gets really intense. And when you're ready, 2 or 3 more, and then rest. Noticing which way you are going. Rest the arms. Release the shoulders. Connect with your breath. Winging the arms out again, 2 wings, and then opposite direction, up to 20, 30 circles. You could close your eyes if you want, taking your awareness into the sensation around the upper back. If you can relax, release the face, the jaw. When you feel like you've had enough of those, you've one or two more, and then rest again. Resting the arms, completely let go of the arms. Releasing away from the shoulder joint. So the shoulder joint is a really interesting joint, actually. I just watched, there's a really good YouTube channel called, I forget his name now, but I'll share it in the group. Anatomy, it's basically anatomy, but they're looking at like cadavers. It was pretty full on. But there's a session on the shoulder joint, which is really interesting. So the shoulder joint is basically like the hip joint. It's the ball and socket, but it's a really open socket. So it's a very highly mobile joint. But for that reason, it can be more vulnerable. Okay, so it's really important to build up strength around the muscles and the connective tissues, because the head of the humerus is just sitting, as it were, into a very kind of open socket. So obviously, it could easily slide off, in an injury situation. So what we're doing is we're building up strength and, as it were, flexibility in that joint. Okay, from here, I'd like to, if it's okay on the knees, stay where you are. If you want to change to cross leg, then you could do that as well. I'd like you to get your strap. Okay, so often I use this strap work as preparation for the more classical poses, which we've already done. So you'll see how with this preparation, it's much easier to do the classical poses. So I'm going to sit a little bit lower, actually. Sitting cross-legged. So we've got a strap, have the strap kind of full out lengthwise, unhooked. And I'm going to bring the strap in front of us and hands together and slide the hands away from each other. So it's in the index and thumb. So you go fairly wide and just a little bit of action of pushing the hands away. And we take the arms up and then see if you can take the hands behind you. So you will need to go wider. Okay, so you take the hands up and back. Try not to push the chest too strongly forwards. And then inhale back. I'll just show that going sideways, because there is a tendency here to really move your chest around. So we bring the hands in front, separate the hands. We go up, taking the arms a little bit wider as is necessary, and then down on the exhale. Is this okay for Johanna? More or less, probably a bit challenging, then come back. So you could go and make it easier by taking the hands wider. But each time you come back to arms forwards, bring the hands closer, start to go up and exploring, moving through that arc where it's quite challenging without bending the elbows, without pushing the chest forward. And back round. We'll just do one more. Moving quite slowly, if you can, with the breath, inhaling up, exhale, releasing, and round. Okay, and back. Okay, so that's the first strap movement. The second strap movement is to bring the hands again in front of you. I'm going to take one arm back and one arm up. Okay, so if this is really easy for you, bring the hands closer together. So one arm goes back, one arm goes up. So the back arm is coming towards the center line. I'll just show that other way around. You're bringing the back arm towards the center line. And then the up arm is going on. We hold for a little bit, okay, holding there. Taking the gaze towards the horizon. and then swinging round forwards and to the other side. It may help to bring your hands closer together, depending on your flexibility. So your one hand is coming towards the center line. The other hand is going up. The other arm is going up. Working gently. Gaze towards the horizon. Exhale back to center. Just take a pause for a moment. I'll just come round so we see what's going on. And take the arms once again in front. So the more flexibility, the closer the hand. So one hand goes up, one hand goes back. And we extend up through the top arm. Down and in with the back arm. It's like you're bringing the back arm into the center line, the medial line. Breathing there, keeping the arms more or less straight. Okay, swing back to center. Probably helps to bring the hands a bit closer together. And swing to the other side. Gaze going out towards the horizon. This is working really thoroughly around the shoulder joint. This is helping to loosen up muscles, create more space around the connective tissue. So when the joints are a little bit freer, they're less prone to injury. This is one of the benefits of like a flexibility stretching routine. Okay. Get back to center. And just take a pause, rest your arms for a moment. Closing the eyes. So it's, yeah, I mean, I get a lot of intense sensations, as I said yesterday, in the upper back. I think it's like a really emotionally charged area. Okay, so from here now, we're gonna fold the belt in half, fold it in half again. So we make it, it's like quartered. And then take the belt in the two hands. And then we rest the belt, as it were, on the crown. And we're going to pull the hands away. So as you inhale, well, actually, it's better to exhale, take the arms up. Inhale, pull the elbows away from each other, and you just touch the crown with the belt. Exhale, pushing up. Just like a dynamic Pavasana, mountain pose. As we inhale, winging the elbows out. Exhale, pushing up. Inhale, winging the elbows. So again, it's engaging the muscles around the joint. It's more almost like a therapeutic yoga. So it's a mixture of strengthening and mobilizing, but at the same time it's gentle. Inhale down, exhale up. And release. So just rest the belt down for a moment, coming into resting in the upright position. If you're still kneeling, then you might want to shift to cross-legged, or if you're cross-legged, you might want to shift to kneeling. So I want us to have a go at some of the classical poses. So I'm going to come back to kneeling. So the first one is Pavasana. So we bring the palms together and interlace the fingers. So you've got one of your index fingers on top. Push the hands away from you. This is a really classic shape in yoga. And then we push up, reach up. So similar to what we were just doing with the belt there, but we're going to hold. And the elbows come in. Really feel the work around the neck area, taking the gaze towards the horizon. Extending through the palm. From the sitting bones pushing up, and then exhale, release the fingers, taking the arms wide. And hands together again and recross the fingers, but with the other index on top. If you can, right down to the roots of the fingers. Push forwards on the exhale, inhale coming up. Closing the eyes for a moment in the pose, breathing. Sense of weight going through the sitting bones at the same time as drawing up. Mountain pose, Pavasana. This is all this work you could actually do from a chair. You know, if you're working with folks, older folks, probably wouldn't hold it for so long, make it more playful. All this could be done from seated in a chair, coming down. Maybe taking the arms wide, that's it. Okay, now we're going to try the classic Gomukasana. So the shoulders should feel really open now. I'm just going to change my angle so you can see. The bell, which you've got folded there, place over the left shoulder. And we're going to bring the right hand around the back of the body. We did this the other day. And you can use your left hand to help position the right forearm and then reach up with the left hand and see if you can hook the fingers. If the fingers don't hook, then take the belt. And the intention here is to pull the elbows away from each other, keeping the forearm away from the back of the head. And breathe. Okay, so it's really going to be intense for Johanna. I can feel it like down the outer shoulder, that line, deltoid line, on in this case on the right side. Breathing there, taking the gaze towards the horizon. If you can relax, release the chest area. We're soft in the solar plexus area. Often when we work this area, we can end up creating tension around the diaphragm. Seems to be a little bit of a reaction. So if you can be quiet in your front chest area. Okay, and then releasing out there. And we'll put the belt over the right shoulder. The left hand comes around the back of the body. And you can wriggle a little bit to get that in position, and right arm goes up. And then we see if we can hook the fingers. If the fingers don't hook, you've got the belt there, ready to use. Again, take the gaze towards the horizon. Elbows separating away from each other. So you're lengthening from the right armpit area to the right elbow and from the left shoulder down to the left elbow. So a sense of lengthening diagonally across the body. Once again, see if you can soften in the chest area. Breathing. Closing the eyes for a moment. So I remember the first time I did this for a minute or 2 minutes. I was working with a Kundalini yoga teacher, and she got us to do this for 2 minutes. And I just thought it was crazy, holding it for so long. So, you know, if we are holding it for too long, do feel free to come out, okay? You can explore holdings, shorter, longer. One of the variables in your practice. When you're ready, releasing out. Okay, and take a pause there. Breathing into the sensations, like after you come out of a pose, there's often like this imprint or like echo of the pose in your body. And listening into that. So I wanted to show you a development of that pose, okay? So I'll show you the setup. So you need a bit of gear. So we'll see how we get on. It's quite an intense pose. But what you want to do is make a little tower of bricks. Okay. And I'm going to put the bolster on top. So we did this the other day as the shoulder hang setup. Okay, so there's a tower of bricks and a bolster. And ideally, you'd be kneeling down in front of your tower, okay? So we're going to come back to the first side. I'm going to put the belt over the left shoulder. And take my right hand around the back of the body, which is definitely the tighter side for me. Left hand going up, taking hold of the belt or hooking the fingers. And then what we do is we come into a forward fold. So you can either bring, there's a few variations here. So you can bring the forehead to the support and rest the elbow down. Or if you want something a bit more intense, you move back a little bit and you just bring the elbow to the support and let the head hang. So I'll let you explore that in your own time. Okay, so we come back to Gomukhasana with the arms, but then we come into a forward fold. So try resting the forehead. That's definitely the milder version, but it puts a different kind of pressure on the shoulder area. And it also means you can rest the head and the neck area. We'll try that for a minute or two, breathing. Try, first of all, where you rest the forehead, and then if that's fairly easy for you, then you could move back a little bit and let the head hang. Just like a combined shoulder hang with Gomukhasana. So I wouldn't describe this as a beginner's pose by any means. It's more of like an advanced posture work. At least try for a few breaths. You get a feel for what's happening there. And when you're ready, coming up, taking a pause, try with the other side. Okay. So the milder version is to take the forehead to the support, and the more demanding version is to hook the elbow. But either way, the intention is to rest the elbow, rest the forehead. Or if you take the head down, you're letting the head hang. Breathing there, staying connected with the breath. So sensation can be really quite intense with this pose. If you can find a restful place, stay a little bit longer. If you really feel like you're battling with the pose, will come out. Okay, releasing when you're ready. There's one to maybe revisit with time. Okay, so it's combining a forward fold with Gomukhasana. So just come into sitting again, relax the arms, resting there again, sensitive to what's happening in your shoulders, upper back, neck. Okay, so from here, we're going to use this brick. So I want you to bring the bricks and the tower towards the center of your mat. So let's see how we get on with this. Last kind of intense stretch for the shoulders. I want us to sit on the support. So you've got your hips quite high up and the feet in front of you. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop back onto the hands, okay? And see if we can rest here. So if it's too high for you, take one of the bricks away or the bolster away, and then you're going to walk your hands back. So we're doing, I think this is extension of the shoulder joint. well, I still haven't checked. So it's either extension or flexion. It's one of the two. But we're feeling a stretch across the front of the shoulders. This is the intention. It's a mixture of passive and efforting. So obviously you need to support your weight with your arms, but your lower body is quiet. Okay, so your pelvis is supported. You can do this. I'm sure you've seen it where you lift the pelvis off the floor, but that's much more intense. So I'm deliberately toning that down. But if you wanted to try that, grounding the feet and lifting, but keeping the gaze towards the horizon. I guess we're looking after the neck. So as a unsupported bridge, it's much more intense. Okay, so we stay here for a minute or two, really stretching through the front of the shoulder. Breathing there. Gaze is forwards. So letting the pose soak down into the shoulder joint. And when you're ready, so to come out, you want to walk your hands a little bit forwards, lift your way up. Carefully come back up to the upright. Take a pause there. Growing your spine, closing the eyes. Once again, tuning in with the sensations across the upper back. Reconnecting with the breath. Okay, so I'd like us to, we're going to do an inverted pose, but I'd really like us to use a wall, okay? So I'm sure you've done this before. So it's like legs up the wall. The ideal prop is the bolster. So bring the bolster to the floor, and it's about a palm width from the wall, okay? So the bricks, you can use a couple of bricks as well. And then we're gonna sit sideways on the bolster. So this is the only fiddly bit, is the swinging the legs up. So the idea is to swing round and you want to sort of wriggle into the wall. So the idea is to bring the buttocks into the wall. And the very top of the pelvis is supported by the bolster, okay? So ideally the bolster is at L5, S1. So it's the last lumbar vertebra, the joint between the lumbar and the top of the pelvis, which is the sacrum 1, as it's called. So it's just sitting, the pelvis is just sitting, as it were, on the cusp of the bolster. With the arms, you can rest the hands onto your body, you can rest them to the side, or I quite like to, given we're focusing in on the shoulders, rest the arms above the head. The legs are minimally active, okay? So ideally you can rest the legs into the wall, but you're leaning the legs into the wall. And releasing the sides of the neck. So sometimes this pose doesn't always work out as restful. So sometimes there can be a bit of tension in the leg. So it seems to be a bit random, to be quite honest. But my experience is sometimes it's not completely restful. So if that is the case, what you could do is bend the knees and rest the soles of the feet onto the wall for a while. And then re-explore taking the legs up. For some reason, the legs don't always let go very satisfactorily. But we're coming into this pose, it's like the penultimate pose. So we've done a really thorough workout for the shoulders and upper back, emphasizing more strengthening and mobilizing than yin. So it sort of contrasts with the first sequence, which is more of a yin practice. Really releasing from the shoulder down into the hands. Whichever position you've got with your arms. If you can soften your face, jaw. If you can let go of the legs. Sometimes it might help to be a bit away from the wall, so you can aim to bring the buttocks into the wall, but it might be more easy for you, depends on the occasion, to have the buttocks a little bit away from us. The legs are leaning more into the wall. And then you're scanning down through the back of the body, feeling the contact with the floor, feeling the support of the bolster or the cushions or the bricks underneath the sacrum. Reconnecting with your breath. And with each out breath, there's a sense of letting go. You can really surrender the legs. So one of the benefits of going upside down is it's restful, supposedly restful for the heart, because you've got like a passive venal flow from the legs back to the heart. Normally the heart is having to pump the blood up from the feet. Okay, so now it's just draining back under gravity. So it's said to be beneficial for the heart being upside down. That's true of all of the inverted poses. At the same time, the heart goes into like a deeper beat, deeper rhythm. So it's still working, but it's a more restful sort of efforting. And then also there's a benefit of, as we know, the lymphatic system runs along the blood circulatory system. So the lymph is the material that comes out of the blood. It's like a very thin, watery liquid. So as the blood moves through capillaries, there can be this lymph, as it were, coming out, and it gets collected back up through the lymphatic system. And that works solely passively, so there's no pumping action through the lymph system. It's all indirect. So the movement of the body helps to move the lymph back towards the heart. So it rejoins the aorta, I think. Also, being upside down allows the lymphatic system in the legs to drain through gravity. So in terms of inversions, this is probably the most gentle, the most accessible inversion. It's gently lifting the hips, legs up the wall, that you can offer. We can explore, we will explore shoulder balance in October in more detail. the more advanced pose. When you're ready, I want you to bring your knees back towards you again, the soles of your feet onto the wall. And so there's a couple of ways to come out. You could slide away from the wall, or you could roll to one side, or you could remove the support and drop the pelvis. And then we'll roll to one side. And I'd like us to set up for Shavasana. So you can use the bolster again now under the knees. Do make sure you're going to be warm enough. I'm just going to put my shirt. And we're going to lie back. Okay, God, I had no idea what time it was. It was just coming up to the hour. So I sort of had the sense that it was coming towards the close. But I'd like us to close with Shavasana. So lying down. So we've been doing this adjustment in Shavasana where you do a little bit of a self-embrace for a while. So it's not an active self-embrace, just crossing the arms over the chest area. If that works for you, it may not work for you, okay? But with the intention to soften, particularly that space between the shoulder blades, just underneath the shoulder blades. Often that's where we get quite tight. Just underneath the shoulder blade there at the back. This helps to open that space, get some breath into that space. So I'm resting my arms across the front of the body. As I said, it really might not work for you. But if it does, give that a go. And supporting the head, I'm lengthening the waist area. I'm lengthening the neck. So I do that by moving the pelvis towards the feet, the head away from me. So it's like there's a sense of lengthening out the spine. Maybe recross the arms if you're doing that. Feeling into the shoulders. So we've really quite emphatically focused in on the upper body these 3 days. So imagine your upper body is going to feel quite different over the next few days, just one way or another. When you're ready, releasing the arms into a position where you can really let go of the arms. Sometimes it makes sense to rest with the arms palms up. Sometimes it makes sense to rest with the palms down. I'll let you explore that. So some people are naturally internally rotated in the shoulders, so it feels more comfortable to rest palms down. But most of us, the majority is external rotatedly. The shoulders are externally rotated, so it's more comfortable to rest palms up. But I'll let you explore that. Sometimes it's good to do the opposite, just to see what that feels like. The resting into Shavasana said to be the most difficult of poses. Still aware, still present, conscious of your physical vitality and energy. sense of the presence of your own body. So even though we've focused in on the shoulders, you may be noticing other parts of the body, lower back, groins, legs. Surrendering your body weight to the floor, just releasing the appendicular skeleton from the axis, from the axial skeleton, so we're softening the spine, the axis, axial skeleton, we're releasing the arms, the legs. The image I quite like to have is, it's almost as though the arms and the legs are falling away from the body. Like if you can almost imagine the ball socket joint really softening and opening. As I was describing in the shoulder, it's a very shallow socket. Imagine the arm falling away from your body. Likewise, the hip joint. Opening up to the landscape of your inner landscape of the heart, mind. Looking at your moods, your emotions, what's bubbling up. Inevitably, your mind will present thoughts, emotions, stories, images. Observing with kindness, whatever's arising. And being aware of your experience of one of change. I'm sure you feel different from like an hour and a half ago. Maybe more awake. Maybe a bit more sore. A bit more delicate. More open of the sense of feeling stronger. More embodied. And then coming into the breath. So just for the last few moments, I'd like you to be aware of the breath. Anapanasati, awareness of the breath. When you're ready in your own time, drawing this session to a close, letting go of the practice. Thank you very much, and thanks for your time and attention. So we'll see each other on the 19th of July. Okay, well, unless you come to the, I'm just going to switch back. Unless you come to the weekly session